St. Louis. Welcome once again to What Retirement Means to You with Jerry Means, the president and founder of the Means Financial Group. I'm Spike Spangle. Jerry, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Spike?
I'm doing very good. I have to let the viewers know I'm wearing a dark shirt because you always look so good in your dark shirts. I'm copying you today, if that's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. You look very sharp.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Love broadcasting here in St. Louis. You help the greater St. Louis area. There's a lot of folks who, of course, when summertime and springtime starts to roll around, we start driving down to the Ozarks, start enjoying that water life as well. We want to help you be and stay retired with a lifestyle that you want to. I got to say, though, Jerry, there's still a lot of Americans. I think there's only something like 32% of Americans that actually use a financial advisor, that actually seek out the assistance of somebody who might know a little bit about them, about how to build a retirement.
Yeah.
Do you hear objections, concerns like that? I mean, if somebody's come to your office, obviously they've already asked for help. But I thought I'd ask you some of the things that might be holding folks back about retirement planning.
Well, I think one of them, you nailed it. The first thing is just to ask for help and to get yourself into the office. But people have told me, I was really worried about how this was going to go, and like I was going to, be hard on them or tell them they did things wrong or pick on something that their brother-in-law did for them that was their advisor or something like that. And they say, I pulled up in the parking lot, my palms were sweaty, I was nervous.
Really?
And I just tell people, that are watching, if they decide to come in and sit down with us, they don't have anything to be afraid of.
You're not going to yell at anybody?
I'm not going to yell at anybody. I'm not going to tell you to do anything silly. We're not there to judge. We're there to help. I want to sit down and understand the situation, where they're wanting to go, or, what does the picture look like for you right now? And let me see if I can help you get there or improve your situation. And occasionally someone will come in and I will look at everything and say, I think you're very good. Maybe there's something here or here that we can tweak a little bit. But for the most part, you've done a great job. Well, what a great feeling to walk away with that, and to know. And I've had people tell me, Jerry, I feel so much better that I came in. And then I've had other folks that come in and they kind of know things aren't where they should be. They just weren't sure how to ask for help or what to do. And I've been able to show them, here's some things that we can do immediately to improve your situation. Here's some things we can do down the road. And again, they'll say, this was a great meeting. I feel better. I'm looking forward to the next one. So the first step is just getting over that fear of the unknown. Come into the office, sit down, have a conversation. I call it a visit. Don't think of it as an appointment, like going to a doctor's appointment, right? It's a visit. You're going to sit down, have a cup of coffee, and then tell me about your situation.
Even to go into a doctor's office, though, there's oftentimes a copay. Nowadays, if you're going to go get your car looked at, especially at a dealership, they'll often charge you just to do the diagnostics. If you're going to sit down sometimes with an estate planning attorney, they might charge you a retainer even just for the appointment. Maybe somebody hasn't reached out yet with a financial advisor, a financial planner, because they feel there's going to be a cost to that first meeting. And I don't know what kind of information. Is there a cost to come and sit down with you?
Well, there are, advisors that will charge by the hour, or they'll come in and charge for their time to do that plan. We do it at no cost, no consultation. So we're going to sit down, we're going to look at your situation, we're going to put together a written plan and show you what we can do for you. We do that at no cost and no obligation. Now, we hope that you want to work with us, if the fit is right. But again, my goal is always to leave people better than I found them. But I find more often than not, people want us to help them implement that plan. But either way, we want them to come in, feel relaxed, leave the checkbook at home, see what we have to offer, right? Find out what we're all about. I think about it like dating, right? You don't get married on the first date, So you want to get to know someone, understand what they have to offer, and that's what we do. We like to show people all the different tools that we have, what our process is like, what our reviews are going to be like. I'm an open book when people sit down. I'm a very casual guy. This is what I look like in the office. I like to sit down and just have conversations.
Yeah. One of the objections I'm sure you've probably heard before is say, look, I'm in my 60s. I seem to have done pretty well for myself. I've got savings. I'm close to paying off the house. Going to turn on that Social Security. I don't think I need an advisor. My investments did pretty good. What would you say to somebody?
Well, there's a couple things to that. One, you may have just done a fantastic job, but also you might have been a benefactor of a really great market. From 2009 to 2019, it was pretty easy to do well in the investment portfolios. Once 2020 hit, 2022, then we started seeing some turbulence. So let's go back and look and see, how did your portfolio act during those times? We can't just look at a great cherry-picked 10-year period. What periods are we looking at here? So that's the first step. Number two is, even if you've done a great job at that, you have to consider, if something happened with you, is your spouse going to be able to do that? And so that's something to consider. On top of that, there are some vehicles that people just cannot buy on their own. They need, like annuities, life insurance, long-term care. Those are purchased through a licensed advisor. So they can't do that on their own. And why would you want to, when the insurance company pays the advisor to do that? Why not let them shop for you and try to design the right plan? So there's all of these different aspects. Even if you're doing great on your own, that it's still a reason to come in and maybe get a second opinion. And there may be vehicles you're not aware of. You've done a great job, but maybe you could do better. You just need the knowledge to know these other things are out there.
We were goofing around one day, and I was showing you my 401k, and I was kind of doing that to myself, patting myself on the back and say, look at my returns, look at my average returns, and look at the growth that I've had for what I've put in. And you said, did your employer give you a match? A light bulb went off. I'm like, oh yeah, wait a minute. Maybe the growth that I had in those accounts for a long period of time was also due to a little bit of matching from the employer. So I'm like, oh, maybe I personally didn't do that great. It's great to have that account, but do we need to consider the matching in those retirement accounts?
Yeah, when you're adding in and the employer's matching and we're in a great market, of course you're going to see those accounts go. But once you retire and you're no longer contributing to that plan, but you're pulling money out and you have a market downturn, now we can see that go backwards just as fast. We talk about, when you retire, every day is a Saturday, right? And the paychecks stop. So now you have to make your own paychecks. So you have to take that bucket of money that you've saved. You have to do what we call the deaccumulation, where you're going to take that money out and start paying yourself. You have to design paychecks to take care of your mug, right? Your mortgage, utilities, groceries. You have to consider hobbies, travel, all of those things. But you also want to have, the play checks. So I call it paychecks and play checks. I borrowed that from a friend. But, those play checks, those aren't the things that you have to have. Those are the things that you want to have. But we want to design for both, right? Because retirement is supposed to be a great time.
So even if you feel that you've done well in your retirement accounts, please tell folks exactly what the on-track review is about for you.
So again, there's no cost or no obligation to come in and sit down with a fiduciary advisor. We're going to go through the full assessment of your portfolio. We're going to answer any questions that you have right out of the gate. We'll talk about how we get paid if you do decide to work with us. But again, this is a no cost, no obligation consultation. We're going to look and see if you have any tax strategies. And if not, we're going to show you some that you can implement. We're going to give you a written income strategy, a written income plan to withdraw assets. We want to assess the risk in your portfolio. If you are taking a lot of risk, we want to make sure you're getting that reward for the risk that you're taking. And maybe you're taking too much risk and we need to lower that down a little bit. We want to look at healthcare. Do you have a long-term care strategy to protect your retirement income? All of these things we're going to do at no cost, no obligation. Of course, we would like to work with you. But again, my goal is always to leave people better than I found them. So give us a call, come in for the on-track review. We'll make sure you're on track to retire when you would like. And if you're already retired, we want to make sure that you stay that way.
Call that phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen. Get your own on-track retirement review at no cost. If that's been your objection of sitting down with a financial advisor, a planner, a team, there's no cost to sit down with Jerry Means. More of what retirement means to you right after this.
I started working in the retirement market, seeing people during the day. And what I quickly found out is they had a really unique set of challenges that were different than everyone else. They were worried about longevity and outliving their money, worried about long-term care, how they were going to leave their legacy to their children and grandchildren. So I really focused my practice on that. And that's what I've been helping people with for the last 25 years. It's an ongoing process. Life changes, family dynamics change, the markets, the political environment change. So really sitting down and have a written plan. We want to make sure that you stay on track to stay retired. Right? The worst thing is to be 80 years old, run out of money, and have to go back to work. We want to stress test all these different scenarios and make sure that their plan is going to stand the test of time. You can't do that if you don't have a written plan or a strategy in place.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with Jerry Means, the president and founder of the Means Financial Group right here in Missouri. You hear all kinds of objections. There's all kinds of stuff, of course, on the internet and so forth of why somebody might not want to work with a financial advisor. They've done well for themselves. Maybe they do have a relationship with somebody, you know? Maybe you'll say, look, I don't want to make a change. I've had my guy for 20 years. They're my golf buddy, went to college with them. They help me pick investments. I wouldn't want to change in the middle of the game. That's a fair response, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, everyone's afraid of change, right? I mean, I don't know anyone that really does like change. I mean, my wife will tell you, even I'm a procrastinator. You know, I like to sleep on things. I don't make quick snap decisions. But I would tell people out there, you know, this when they come in to meet with us and have this consultation, I always talk about it being no cost, no obligation, but also, you know, it's no one's going to know that we did it. It's a completely private meeting. They're going to sit with us. Their advisor is not going to know that they met with us. Now, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about all the things they're concerned about. We're going to show them what we do and touch on all the different aspects of retirement planning. What often will happen when I do that is they'll say, why isn't my advisor talking about that? I've been with my advisor 20 years. I like my advisor. I golf with them, you know. Or maybe they don't talk to their advisor very often, but they're just still afraid of the change. When someone decides to work with us, the other thing they're afraid of is taxes. You know, is there going to be a big tax change for me to switch plans? But we can transfer things over to where we take, it's called an in-service, or not, excuse me, not in-service, but a transfer in kind, which means we can take the investments that they currently have, transfer them over where we're the advisor of record, and then we can kind of look at that and do like tax loss harvesting to make sure that we're not hurting them financially when it comes to taxes when we're transferring these different assets. We also can look at the different risk in that portfolio and maybe make some adjustments. But they really don't even have to talk to their advisor. I tell people, if you want to call them and let them know you're making a change, that's completely up to you. If your advisor calls you, if you want to talk to them and tell them, hey, I just decided to go in a different direction, that's okay. But frankly, you don't even have to talk with your advisor. They're going to get a written notice that those accounts are transferring. And the truth is, most advisors, once that happens, don't call the client and say, hey, why did you transfer? They've already moved, right? They've already surrendered. So it's really not that big of a deal to switch from one advisor to another. As far as taxes and the process, we do all the heavy lifting. But what is important is to see what we do versus maybe what your current advisor is not doing.
Right. And so that current advisor or the financial representative you're seeing, they might be helping you purchase or manage different investments, giving you the access to it. But it's what other services do they provide? I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? So that suite of services that you do.
Yeah, I recently had a lady, a really nice lady that is now a client, but she called into the TV show, came in, and I showed her all of these different things we were doing. She was 70 years old. She had a lot of risk in her portfolio. She wasn't real comfortable what was going on. She wasn't getting communication. And honestly, Spike, that's the number one reason people tell me that they transfer or they move over from where they're at to working with us, is because they feel like they're not getting the attention or the contact that they should be getting, the communication. You know, maybe they're hearing from their advisor once a year, if that, and they don't feel like how can they be making changes and adjustments if they're barely talking once a year, right? That plan is just kind of sitting there stagnant. You got to have constant communication. But this lady came in and I showed her all these different things that we could do, and she was really happy about it, but she was hesitant to move. So she said, can I set another meeting and bring my son in? And I said, that's fantastic. I love that, right? Like, let's have your son come in. You know, maybe he'll become a future client, right? Which I believe that he will. But he came in, I sat down, basically did my first meeting over again so that he could kind of be up to speed and show him everything. And I said, you guys should go home. She was already ready to move at that point. She just, I think, wanted his assurance. And he said, no, it makes sense to me. I think it's a no-brainer. I still told him, you guys should go home. Go to dinner tonight, talk about it. Give me a call in the next few days and tell me if you still want to move forward. We'll have you come back in and we'll get that paperwork going. So right there, I could have moved her over, but I wanted them to really feel good about that change and to take time and not have that buyer's remorse the next day about moving over. So it really is trying to do the right thing for people.
You know, Jerry, you and I both big fans of the internet, and there's a lot of information out there. And look, one of the objections might be that all financial advisors are the same. They're the Wall Street sharks. Somebody's just going to try to pitch me something. If you Google financial advisor in St. Louis area, Missouri area, wherever you're at, you're going to get thousands of pages of all different kinds of financial advisor name. But are there different kinds? I mean, I know this. Not every restaurant is the same thing. You got everything from fast food to fine dining. Restaurants aren't the same. Are all financial advisors doing the same thing?
Yeah, you know, some of those menus print the calories and some don't, right? You have to think about that.
Yes.
It's the same thing with financial advisors. Some advisors are open about their fees. Others don't like to talk about them too much, you know? So,
What's the philosophy of you, the Means Financial Group?
So when we sit down with someone in a first meeting, I like to talk about, if they decide to work with us, how we get paid. Because the last thing I want when I'm sitting across from someone is them to be thinking, oh, geez, what's this going to cost me? You know, what is this going to cost me? I want to get that out of the way so that we can have an open conversation. I mean, we give a no cost, no obligation consultation. We do several meetings, and then to ask a client if they want, or a person if they want to become a client. But in the first meeting, I go over, if they do become a client 3-4 meetings from now, how we're going to get paid, so that we can just get that off of the table and focus on the real issue, and that's their retirement plan.
Okay, and you want to tell me just a little bit about that for our viewers out there?
Well, there's different types of advisors too, by the way. You know, I mean, there's brokerage house advisors that are kind of limited. Maybe they're what's called a captive advisor, where they have limited products that they can offer because they're under someone else's umbrella. You've got independent advisors that are brokers that just charge a commission and they're transaction based. And then you have fiduciary advisors who charge a fee for their advice and are held to a little bit higher standard than a traditional broker. So there are different types of advisors. We're a fiduciary firm. So when you come in and you meet with us, you're going to be sitting with a fiduciary advisor. And we're going to do what we call the on-track review. And again, no cost, no obligation, no pressure, leave your checkbook at home. We just want to hear what your retirement looks like for you, what you would like it to look like. We want to look at your investments, see how much risk you're taking. We want to look at your tax planning. We want to look at long-term care planning for you. We want to do a written income plan for you. So we do all of that at no cost, no obligation. Just give us a call.
Dial that phone number down on the bottom of the screen. Get your own on-track retirement review. And as Jerry was saying, there's no cost to you. We're going to take a look at investments, fees, your taxes, have an estate planning conversation if that's important to you, how and when to take Social Security. If you've already turned it on, can we maximize it a little more, maybe with tax-efficient strategies? All of those medical choices that you might need to make later down the road, everything from Medicare to long-term care, your on-track retirement review, all of this at absolutely no cost to you. Dial that phone number right now. For our television viewers, Jerry leaves a couple of weeks of space in his calendar just for the TV viewers alone. So dial that phone number right now. We'll be right back with Jerry Means right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back. We are with Jerry Means, the president and founder of the Means Financial Group. Jerry, I thought it was startling, almost kind of funny too. Nearly 50% of adults said they would rather go to see a dentist than a financial advisor.
Ouch.
That really surprises me.
Ouch in so many ways,
Ouch
right?
in so many
that
ways.
hurts right here, but also just thinking about going to the dentist makes me go ouch.
Yeah, well, so why do you think people are they're worried that you're going to pull apart what they've saved or say, what did you do wrong? Or what are you thinking here? What do you think they're so afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, when I go to the dentist, I'm afraid, he's going to tell me I have a cavity and, hey, what have you been eating? Have you not been brushing and flossing enough? And, we're going to have to pull that tooth now. And, you start thinking about all of these different things when you go to the dentist. It's the same thing when people come to a financial firm. I think they're worried that someone's going to judge them for not doing all of the right things, or not saving enough. And listen, we're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. We want to be here. We want to be someone that you can lean on and that you can talk to about, not just your investments and your rate of return, but what do you want the total outlook to be like? people are telling me, Jerry, I want to retire and I want to travel. That can mean so many different things. I mean, do you want to travel to Europe 3 months out of the year? That's a whole different planning than if you just want to take your grandkids to Disneyland for a week, right? Which I don't know if that's cheaper than going to Europe. For
I don't know at this point.
But I mean, it really, retirement is different to everyone. When someone says travel to me may mean something different than travel does to you. So I really like to dig in and find out, hey, what is it that you're concerned about? So when people come in, we're here to help them. We're not here to judge them.
Mm-hmm. Some of the blind spots I wanted to help out with, again, you may have a life savings that you've put together. You might have a little bit of insurance. You've talked about at least putting together a will close to paying the house off. Some blind spots, though, if people still think they can do this alone without a financial advisor, one thing you said, those healthcare costs. Let's dig into those a little bit. Medicare doesn't cover everything, does it?
It does not. And by the way, with Medicare, there's so many different choices. When you have Medicare, you've got Medicare A, B, C, D. I mean, it's pretty confusing, right? And then you have supplement plans, either a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. So Angela, my wife, works in the office. We're a family firm. She's licensed to do Medicare supplement and Medicare Advantage. So she'll sit down with a client in a separate meeting from the one that I have, because we like to separate those two. But she'll sit down in a separate meeting. She'll do a questionnaire for them and find out, who are your doctors, what are your medications, all of their history. And then she has a system of running through, and she'll come up with, okay, I think this is a good Medicare supplement plan. This is a good Medicare Advantage plan for your situation. And then she'll explain the difference between those two and help them kind of zero in. Because as you know, if you turn 65 or older, your mailbox, your emails, everything is getting filled. You're getting phone calls. So it's hard to decipher through some of that stuff. And the plans change every year. So what might have been the best plan for you last year, there might be a better option this year. On top of that, Medicare only pays for 100 days of skilled nursing care, which is a big one, right? It can take a big chunk, if not bankrupt, a retirement plan. And I don't say that to scare people, but I think most people are aware of this, right? They're starting to see that people are living longer. We've got sandwich generations where people still have adult kids, or kids that they're taking care of. They've got parents that they're taking care of. Having some type of long-term care plan strategy is critical to a retirement plan.
Right. And another blind spot, you said, even if you feel that you've done well, you've got your assets, you've got a decent amount in savings, that knowing how to actually put together an income plan for that is hugely unknown. If you've never put one together, is it okay to just start withdrawing from your accounts, whichever are the largest ones, or just turn on the Social Security? The income plan, a huge blind spot.
Yeah, this is something that you want to put a lot of thought into. People will come in and they will be fortunate enough that they have a qualified plan like a 401k, a Roth IRA, that's going to be tax-free. And the first instinct is to draw off of that tax-free account, right? I don't want to pay any taxes, let's take off the tax-free account. The benefit of that account is the long-term growth. So maybe down the road, if you retire at 65, 67, maybe you don't touch the Roth until you're in your mid-70s. It's 10 more years of growth. And now, where are you going to look at down the road? Where are taxes going to be 10 years from now? I'm willing to gamble that they're going to be higher than they are today. So why not defer that for the back end of the retirement versus just take it right out of the gate? Qualified plans. We want to look at, okay, does it make sense to take it out a little bit at each year to make sure that we don't go over the threshold of the next bracket? Then you have individual accounts that are taxed at capital gains rates. Are we doing any tax loss harvesting? There's all these different strategies that most people, frankly, just don't know how to do on their own.
Right. Well, and first there's what are the tax strategies of taking things out? And then there's the ups and downs of the markets. So how much of it do we start taking our foot off the gas completely, move these accounts into cash, CDs, bonds, so we have a little bit of income and protection? Or how many of them do we leave in the accounts to keep growing over a long period of time?
Well, that's what we try to help people determine. We want to segment it into different buckets, right? Everyone should have some type of emergency bucket. Now, that emergency bucket's different to different people. It depends on their situation. We will help you determine how much you should have in that emergency bucket. Then we want to plan for income. How much income are you going to need in retirement? Well, to do that, we have to look at what are your expenses? What are your expenses going to be in retirement? Is the house going to be paid for? And if it's paid for, what's your taxes on that house? What's your insurance costs for that house? Are you going to need another car in retirement, right? Because if you're retired for 30 years, you're probably going to want another car in retirement, but you don't have that paycheck to pay for that. So we have to design that plan. If you're going to travel, where are those funds going to come from? You don't have vacation days anymore, right? Those vacation days are paid by you. You're now self-employed, right? So we're going to determine that income plan, but you do want to have some growth for the back end of your retirement. That's the bucket that we can maybe take a little bit more risk, a risk that you're comfortable at, to help grow and fight inflation, because that's the other thing that can be a big factor in retirement is the cost of goods going up. I mean, if you're retired 30 years, you might see the cost of goods double twice in your retirement.
Wow. And that's just based on an inflation rate of about 3% a year.
Yeah.
Every 12 to 15 years, the cost of goods doubling.
Yeah. And we've seen some higher rates than that. Just, you know, that they were
last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, they were maybe outliners, but the average rate is about 3%.
Yeah.
But what if your retirement has those outliners in it, you know?
Yeah. And not only has the rate of inflation supposedly come down, but it's not like we've really seen costs come down.
No.
You know, going to the restaurant, insurance, medical costs, everything. It seems like our price point has become much higher, so we need to make sure we can pay that. One more blind spot I wanted to ask. There's a lot of folks who say, I like playing with my investments. I think I know what I'm doing. I enjoy doing this myself. And you said, okay, that's great. What about your spouse? Do they understand your investment strategy? And do they want to be the investment manager after you're gone?
Yeah, it's really funny because I've had couples come into my office and sit down, and not always, but more times than not, one of the spouses is more involved in the investments, and the other one not so much, right? He handles it or she handles it. I get that a lot. I actually was sitting with a couple, and you know, and we were going through their portfolio, and he was going through, you know, all the different investments, pension options, all of these different things. And, you know, I think his wife was playing like Candy Crush or something on her phone. You know, she really wasn't into the meeting. But I started asking questions, you know, do you understand that if you pass away before her, she loses her Social Security and only gets yours? And I could kind of see her start to pay attention. And I asked, you know, on your pension, he was fortunate enough to have a pension. And I asked what the survivor benefit was going to be. He wasn't even sure. And man, she turned around and said, hey, we got to find that out, you know? So by the end of that meeting, they knew the answers to those questions. So it was worth coming in for that no cost obligation appointment. So.
All right, Jerry Means, thank you so much. You answered the objections yourself. Now, take away the objections for you. There's no cost to call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. Get your own on-track retirement review right now. Thank you so much for calling or watching What Retirement Means to You. Call that number. We'll be back next week.